What's up guys, it's Eric from Candy, and welcome back to another entry into our testing around series where we take a look at some unrefined rough deck ideas revolving around new cards that a set gives us, and we tried them out to see what might have potential in the upcoming format. So for this entry we are going to be taking a look at two new archetypes that look to emerge from the new Ultra Prism set. Over on the left I am going to be playing Glaceon GX, and over on the right we have actually a local player from our area, Jeremy Stewart. He was kind enough to help me record this video, but he's going to be over there playing Luxray. So should be, I feel like on paper this looks kind of like an evenish matchup, because the big thing with Glaceon is that it shuts off your opponent's EX and GX abilities, but Luxray outside of Tapu Lele in the early turns really isn't very reliant on GXs and EXs for their abilities. So on paper I feel like this looks like kind of an even match, but let's see how this is going to play out. So let's see, I'm not sure who won the coin flip, let's see. Okay, it looks like Jeremy did win the coin flip, and he's actually opening with a really good start. He has two Shinx and a Shining Celebi in play, so let's see what else he might have here. So he's going to get down an energy attachment onto the bench Shinx, play Parallel City, and unfortunately he does not have a draw supporter. Honestly, he has a great start other than that, but hopefully he can top deck out of this. And so here I have my preferred starter. It's going to be that Eevee with the Energy Evolution ability. So whenever you attach a basic energy, you search your deck for a Pokemon of the same type that evolves from it and immediately evolve. So this allows us to get Glaceon GX out on the first turn of the game. And it has that ability, like I just mentioned, it shuts off abilities for your opponent's EX and GX Pokemon. So definitely your ideal starter in this matchup. So here I'm going to play an Ultra Ball, getting rid of a Water Energy and a Glaceon, and here I'm going to go for a Lele and just grab probably a Sycamore here, or a Cynthia potentially. So I'm just going to go for the Cynthia here, and I could have just Lele'd for Bridget, but then I would not have actually had a draw supporter for the next turn. Granted, I could have potentially saved that Ultra Ball to get another Lele the following turn, but really I don't need too much in play right now. I have this Glaceon that I can just kind of wall with, and I'm fine actually just getting Pokemon into play manually this time. It shouldn't be too big of a deal here. And looks like I actually have an Eevee in hand as well. Not sure if I want to bench it or not. Honestly Glaceon is great to start with, but maybe in the late stages of the game I might favor Ninetales here. So let's see how Jeremy is going to respond here. He draws a counter energy. It looks like he has a Cynthia. Okay, so he is actually going to be able to stay in this game, it looks like. So you're just going to attach that counter energy and play Cynthia. So counter energy, for you guys who might not be too familiar, it does provide a colorless energy by default, but if it's attached to a non-GX or EX and your opponent has less prizes than you, then it provides two of any kind of energy at the same time. So it's basically like a double rainbow energy if you're losing, without that little pesky damage that it takes. So the big thing here Jeremy really wants is to get a couple of Luxios into play. As soon as he gets two Luxios, that's basically when his board starts to come alive, because you really need two at a time to really, I think, make this deck work. So here he's going to play Timer Ball, getting double head, so he's actually kind of jumping back into this game here. So he is going to be able to go for that double Luxio. Okay, so it looks like that's what he's thinking about. I saw he had a Luxray in hand, so I guess those are probably the best evolution cards that you take out of the deck. So, okay. So he's going to do that, and I kind of like that because I think I actually saw a Luxio in his hand as well. And by not playing that down, it kind of conceals the contents of his hand as well. So I like this move, and he needs to get that choice band down. Okay. So it's going to be solid, so that way you can soften up this Glaceon a little bit more. So he's going to use that attack on Luxio. It does 30 damage for a single colorless energy, and your opponent cannot play any item cards. So it's kind of like the old Seismitoad EX from back in the day, but here luckily I have a double colorless energy, and that's really going to allow me to put on a ton of pressure here onto Jeremy's field. So Glaceon's first attack for a Water and DCE does 90 damage and 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So it's basically just like that Shadow Bullet attack that we've seen on Umbreon GX, but now it's on a Water type. So here I'm just going to bridge it, only getting out the one Zorua, so that is a little bit unfortunate. That kind of tells me my other Zorua is actually prized here. You know, and really this is not a matchup where I think you can go with more than one Ninetales, just because Ninetales is very reliant on Aqua Patch to actually keep attacking throughout the course of a game. And you know, if my item cards are going to be shut off, I really don't think I can afford to set up multiple Ninetales. And I have an Eevee already in hand, so I don't know if I really need any more Eevees at this point. So let's see what Jeremy's going to do. He does get his Luxray into play, and definitely a good play here. He's going to play Max Potion, healing off that 30 damage that the Glaceon put there. And that's actually really important because Glaceon's GX move, Frost, I think it's Polar Spear GX or something like that, does 50 times the amount of damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon. So healing that 30 damage is actually pretty big here, and he did continue to do 30 more damage using that Shining Celebi to copy Luxio's attack. So basically he has this big stage 2 Pokemon in play now that can item lock this Glaceon and all the stuff I have going on my deck, and he can tank hits a little bit better here. And also Luxray, it's important to note, it does have an ability, it reduces damage by 30 done to it while it's in the active spot. So that's why the Glaceon only did the 60 damage as opposed to 90. And here it looks like he is going to use Luxray's main attack. It does require you to discard 2 lightning energy whenever you use it, but you get to do 150 anywhere on your opponent's field. And unfortunately, you know, Jeremy's in kind of a bad spot. He's been dead drawing. You know, he didn't have a supporter or anything to play last turn. And, you know, if he was just able, I think, to keep some Shinx in play throughout the course of this match, I think he would have been, you know, kind of okay, because here I'm going to be able to take a knockout with this Ninetales, assuming I get an energy, of course. But after that, Jeremy just does not have a lot to really mess with. He does have a Shining Celebi, he does have a Tapu Lele in hand, so he will be able to play probably an N or maybe a Cynthia or something next turn, because he does have that Tapu Lele. But let's see what... let's see, so I'm going to get down the Double Colorless Energy. I'm going to play down this Choice Band. Honestly, it's not too great of a card in this matchup, but I just want to thin it out of my hand in case of an N or something like that. So here I'm going to use Ninetales' attack, Blizzard Edge, for 2 water and a colorless is 160, and you discard 2 energy attached to Ninetales. So definitely a pretty powerful attack, but like I said, this is not the best attack against the deck that item locks you, just because at some point you'll probably have to discard water energies. And without Aqua Patch, it can be a little bit tricky to keep powering up Ninetales throughout the course of a game. So now that my Glaceon is out of the active spot, that is going to allow Jeremy to play his Tapu Lele GX to, you know, probably grab a supporter out of his deck here. And it looks like he actually might be eyeing down Bridget. I see him, you know, eyeing down the 2 Shinx right there. So that could be a half decent play, because he really wants to make sure he gets 2 Shinx in play, because unfortunately, you know, Shinx does only have 50 hit points, and Alolan Ninetales GX has that Ice Blade attack that can do 50 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So this is super unfortunate because, like I said, I can just easily pick off a Shinx on Jeremy's board, so he has to get 2 in play to ensure that 1 can evolve on the following turn. So here's going to go for the Bridget, and does he have a draw supporter for next turn? That's the only downside to playing Bridget here, but he did thin some cards out of his deck at the very least. But, you know, I'm feeling pretty good about the spot that I'm in at this point. And it's here I'm just deciding where I want to attach. And I think attaching the Eevee is probably fine, but here I'm going to Field Blower that Parallel City that was limiting my bench size. And here I'm just trying to decide what I want to do. Here it looks like I might be deciding to go for a Kukui. So I'm just going to grab a Glaceon here. And okay, so Kukui doesn't really matter too much as far as the damage goes. It did allow me to draw some extra cards. I guess I just didn't really want to end there. Jeremy didn't really play a draw supporter for a few turns, so I was kind of assuming he didn't have access to one, so that's why I played the Kukui as opposed to the N. And here I'm just going to do 50 to Shinx, picking that off while setting up another Glaceon on the bench. Definitely, I think, my preferred attacker throughout this matchup. You know, Ninetales is great, especially in the late game, to maybe clean up your last knockout on like a Lele or something like that. But generally speaking, Glaceon is just generally the more consistent attacker. And here, so Jeremy is going to get down a Shinx, which is good. He just needs that thing to stay in play for one more turn. That way he can evolve into Luxray and start tanking hits a little bit better. So let's see what he's going to get here. He really needs yet another Shinx down. That's going to be his biggest, challenge, is just streaming these Pokemon. And Shinx is good; it can item lock your opponent, but you really need Luxray in play for this deck to, I think, really carry itself through the game. Just because Shinx only has 80 hit points, which means that Glaceon's going to be easily be able to pick this thing off. So he does have a Marshadow in hand. He could play that potentially. So he's going to get down a Choice Band, it looks like. So it looks like he is starting to thin his hand, maybe in preparation of this Marshadow. And here he's going to play that Marshadow. So it's actually kind of a decent card in this deck, I feel like. So both players shuffle their hands into their deck and draw 4 cards. It is definitely very important in this deck because unlike in previous formats where we had Seismitoad EX, we don't have something like Shaman to help us dig to hit all of the pieces that we need to make sure this deck can function properly. And that's a big challenge. So Marshadow actually kind of helps with that a little bit, and also can disrupt your opponent. So let's see if Jeremy got anything else. Like I said, he really needs another Shinx. So if he has a Rescue Stretcher, that might be the way to go. But here he's just going to Max Potion into Celebi and pass. And honestly, I'm not sure if I like that too much. Just because I think it's going to be more important to try to tank with your Luxios. Also, okay, but here I'm just going to get the Guzma anyway, so I'm not sure if it made too big of a difference. But here, so I'm going to use Guzma, putting that Ninetales on the bench and attaching a Water Energy to Glaceon. That way I can knock out the Shinx and then do 30 damage someplace else on Jeremy's board. Here I'm going to opt for the Lele just in case he field blowers my Choice Band on Ninetales. A regular Blizzard Edge will still be able to knock it out to take the last 2 prizes at some point, hopefully. Unfortunately, he played that Marshadow and gave me exactly what I needed. So I think Jeremy, he was going for the right thing. He was trying to disrupt me while trying to get some more cards and play. So it just wound up kind of biting him there, giving me that Guzma. So here he's going to go for an Ultra Ball, and does he even have another Shinx? Oh god, that is not good. And here he's going to play an N. So he really needs a Rescue Stretcher here, but I think at this point in the game, honestly, it might be too late. This Glaceon's putting on so much pressure, and then Ninetales is kind of always looming in the back as well to take a big knockout at some point too. So he, at the very least, if he wants to stay in this game, he definitely needs maybe a Floatstone and Counter Energy and Cobalion. That's actually one thing he could get, since this deck list does run the Cobalion from Steam Siege. But here, just a pass, and I top deck the Guzma here and have the energy to take a knockout on this Tapu Lele. So kind of unfortunate for Jeremy. Oh, and he did prize his Cobalion, which is definitely not good in this matchup for sure. So I think he had a little bit of bad luck there. I hate to say, but we are doing a best 2 out of 3 series, so Jeremy does still have a chance to bring it back and take the next 2 games. So, and luckily for him too, he will be able to go first since he did lose game 1, which means I can't get that turn 1 Glaceon lock and prevent him from playing Tapu Lele. So that's going to be the big thing that will, I think, really hurt his deck. If he can just make it past the first turn or so where he can Lele to bridge it out, hit some Pokemon, I think he's probably in a good spot at that point. So let's see. Yeah, another thing too is if he can get Cobalion in play in the mid to late game, he can definitely sweep my field because Glaceon and Ninetales are both weak to metal, which means Cobalion can definitely, just kind of run through him after I've taken a few prizes. So I think those are probably the big things he needs to be mindful of. He's playing Parallel City, trying to disrupt me, but unfortunately, like I said, he just didn't have the best of luck that game, I think. And speaking of not getting the best of luck, I open Tapu Lele and I have Sycamore and a bunch of cards. I don't really want a Sycamore, to be honest. So let's see how this goes. Maybe I can get bailed out with an N or something like that. I do see it in Jeremy's hand, but he has some Ultra Ball, so I would imagine we are probably going to see a Bridget come down this turn if I had to guess. So here's going to Ultra Ball away the N and the Ultra Ball. So like I said, most likely we're going to see a Tapu Lele come down and use Bridget. That's kind of his ideal first turn supporter, of course. And does he have Tapu Lele in the deck? I was having a hard time seeing it in there. And I think I do see it actually. So maybe he's just taking a peek and seeing what all is in his deck and what's prized and all that type of stuff. So I do see at least one Shining Celebi. I see a couple of Shinx. So here he's going for the Bridget, but he definitely needs to Tapu Lele first. That's going to be the first step. So if he can just play Lele and get out 3 Shinx, I think that's going to be ideal here. Shining Celebi is good, but it's definitely a card that you don't need until maybe turn 3. So he definitely has a couple turns to get that into play. So I think just ensuring that he can get Shinx up and running and get a couple of Luxios and Luxrays into play, first is going to be ideal. And so let's see. And here he's eyeing down the Shining Celebi, and I think this was a game. Jeremy did prize 2 Shinx against me. One game we played, this might actually be the one. And if that's the case, that is so rough. He basically just has to get 2 Luxrays in play on turn 3. If he wants a chance to stay in this, because these little Luxios that he can get into play just aren't really going to go the distance most of the time. So here I'm just debating, do I want to attach and do I want to play Choice Band? Those are going to be the big things. And here I'm going to play the Choice Band just in case I hit double Colorless Energy. I will be able to, do a decent little bit of damage to this Tapu Lele. Unfortunately though, I get a big bunch of nothing. I do have Bridget in hand ready to go on the next turn, but beyond that, I didn't get too much else to work with on turn 1. So definitely this is a good window of opportunity for Jeremy to potentially, kind of get set up, while going unchecked. So here, what does he have? I think I did see an N in his hand last turn. So he does have a Float Stone. I know he has an Ultra Ball. So here I'm just trying to figure out what he really wants to do. He's probably thinking, do I play down any of these cards before I end? So I feel like, you don't really need to attack with Luxio this turn. I feel like you could just save the Float Stone. I mean, you could put it down, but... Oh, and here he's just going to pass. I can't say that I really like that, because he really needs another Shinx or another Luxio in play, but you know what? I still can't really do much this turn as far as taking a knockout on any of these Pokemon, so that's the one thing he does have going for him. So, but that might have been, I think, maybe too conservative of a play. Maybe he was also thinking, you know what, Eric Sycamore, he didn't play down any basics and he just passed, so maybe his hand is bad, but so that could have been a consideration as well. So here I'm going to get out basically all of my little basics, 1 Vulpix, 1 Eevee, and 1 Zorua. So I'm going to give myself a few options here and see what I want to do. And so let's see, what did Jeremy top deck? That's going to be the next big question. I know he has Float Stone. And I think the card is Rescue Stretcher, and honestly, I don't like this play if I just have to be honest. He is going to get down Luxray, which is definitely a good thing, and here he's just going to end. But the thing is, your recovery cards are so important in this, just in general, but especially since you have 2 of your Shinx prized. These 2 Shinx in play basically have to go the distance. There is a Super Odd in Jeremy's deck as well, so he will have access to that at some point, but the Float Stone is also crucial. That way he can retreat this Lele and actually, start doing that item lock. And here he does get a Luxio, which is good, and he gets a Parallel City, which is also good as well. He's going to limit my bench size. And here he just has to pass. So I'm just not a big fan of that play. Like I said, I would have preferred maybe seeing the Float Stone come down and then maybe seeing the N. So let's see, what do I have to work with here? I'm going to get down a Float Stone on the Zorua, probably. Here it looks like I'm opting for Glaceon. So let's see. going to attach the DCE actually to Lele. That way I can do, I believe it's 20, 40, 60, 90 damage to this Lele, so I can two-shot it if it is stuck in the active spot for another turn. And here at top deck, or not top deck, but I draw into a Field Blower, so that's definitely going to be good as well, getting rid of that Perilous City. And here I'm going to get down another Lele, and looks like I'm thinking about grabbing Sycamore potentially. Could also potentially go for Cynthia. I think that's an option as well. Either one I think is fine. But the reason I'm going for the Lele right now is because I do know Jeremy does play Perilous City in his list, and I don't want another one to come down and him to item lock me, preventing me from playing Lele next turn to get a supporter. So I think it's just safer going and playing it right now before potentially another Perilous City comes down. And then we're just going to do Energy Drive to do 90. It's that attack on Tapu Lele, 20 times the amount of energy on both active Pokemon. And I see an Enhanced Hammer in Jeremy's hands. That could be good if he wants to discard energy from this Lele. And okay, Andy's going to Max Potion as well and play Timer Ball. So he gets a Tails and a Tail. So that is unfortunate because getting another Luxray into play would be pretty crucial here. But he's going to play Cynthia. And he needs an energy to retreat. And ideally another Luxray as well. I think those are going to be the big things. Maybe a Choice Band could be really good here as well. So I'm trying to think. I think I saw an energy. So he got another Luxray into play. So okay, so Jeremy is actually starting to get some stuff going here. Does he have the energy? I thought I saw one, but maybe I was mistaken. But here I'm just going to play Field Blower, getting rid of the Floatstone on Glaceon and then the Choice Band on the active Lele. I think that's okay, I suppose. Oh, and he does have an energy. Okay, so he actually can attach to this Lele Retreat into Luxray, and like I said, he can start copying Luxio's attack thanks to Shining Celebi and finally start doing that item lock combo. Okay, so here I'm just going to play Cynthia. So here you saw I was actually favoring attaching to Alolan Ninetales. I actually think this is a bit of a misplay potentially because, Luxray has that ability that reduces damage, so I think maybe I could have overlooked that, but on the plus side, I can just, kind of pick off Celebi. So actually, yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking at the time, because now if I can just two-shot this Celebi, then, Luxray is not going to be able to item lock me, which could be kind of good. And just in general, I guess Alolan Ninetales actually is one of the... It could be a good attacker in this matchup just because Luxray is never going to knock it out in one hit. And so that kind of gives Ninetales an opportunity to abuse that GX move, Ice Path GX. Just for 2 colorless energy, you move all damage counters on Ninetales onto one of your opponent's Pokemon. Or not on one of them, but with their active. Definitely important to note. So here I'm just going to do 50 to Celebi, kind of setting up a knockout. But one thing I do have to be careful about is that, Luxray does still have an attack of his own, even without Shining Celebi. So that is one thing I'm going to have to keep in mind. So let's see, what does Jeremy have here? I did see a Super Rod in his hand that he had gotten last turn, but he really, I think, just wants to save that for whenever, one of his crucial Pokemon here get knocked out, like one of his Luxrays or this Shining Celebi. So here it looks like he's thinking about attaching counter energy and just going to play Cynthia. So I think this is good, spreading out his energy. He doesn't need 2 attachments on any single Luxray right now. One thing he does have to be mindful of is the number of counter energy he has in his deck though, because at some point he is going to want to get that Cobalion into play and use that Revenge Blast attack. So, and without counter energy, it might be a little harder. I do run 2 metal energy in this list just in case, but he would definitely prefer counter energy most of the time, I think, here. And he has a Choice Band as well. So it looks like he's going to get the Choice Band down on the benched Luxray. I actually like this because basically right now he's setting it up to where if I knock out this bench Celebi, this other Luxray on the bench can just come up and do 180 to knock out this Ninetales. And here I'm going to play an end. So both of us are going to shuffle back in, and kind of a slow game so far. No one's really taking a knockout, but here I do have to be careful because, like I said, you know, I can knock out this Celebi, but now I'm kind of worried that Jeremy is going to be able to knock out this Ninetales right back, and I don't really have another attacker ready to go just yet. So maybe I just keep sniping. And here I finally get Zoroark GX in play, which is going to be really important just because, you know, while I'm item locked, I might not be able to play, you know, certain cards that I might want to. And, you know, I might have a lot of items clogging up my hand and my deck, so being able to discard stuff I don't need is going to be very important here. And I'm not sure if I attach for turn yet. If I did not, I might consider trading away the Zorua. I think that could be an option. But here I'm just going to hang on to my hand. I guess there's not too much I'm really dying for. You know, this Zoroark on the bench and this Glaceon both are just one attachment away from being able to attack. So I think I'm actually maybe okay just to sit on this hand for a turn. Okay, so here I did 50 damage to this Luxray, and I have Guzma in hand, so what I'm thinking about doing is actually playing Guzma to you know, depending on how much damage is done to me this turn, I might even just Guzma up this Celebi and use an Ice Path on it, which, you know, might not be half bad. We'll see. I do have Guzma, so I do have access to some sort of cute play next turn, potentially, if I want to go that type of route. But let's see, and Jeremy's just going to end here. I'm sure he was probably counting on me knocking out that Celebi, that way he could, you know, do some damage with Luxray. So here he might just have to just keep pinging away and doing 30 damage at a time. And one thing that's important to note, if you do notice, I do have 50 damage on that Luxray on the bench. That ability only activates on Luxray if it's in the active spot. So that's why it took 50 damage as opposed to just the 20 damage that it would take had it been in the active spot. So I do see an Ultra Ball in Jeremy's hand. I do see a Marshadow. I don't think he really needs to play the Marshadow though. Okay, so I'm just going to do 60 here. And let's see. So I'm going to trade away that Bridget. Pretty useless card at this point. And I do draw a double Colorless Energy, so I do have some options as far as what I can do here. So, you know, I could retreat this Ninetales, and okay, it looks like what I'm kind of opting to do here, if I am trying to power up Glaceon. So I could potentially just retreat the Ninetales, do 60 to the active and 30 to the Luxray. Or, you know, I could actually knock out the Shining Celebi. I think that actually might be okay at this point, because that's going to force Jeremy to actually discard his energy to knock out this Ninetales, which really isn't the threat on my board at this point. And it's going to basically, you know, force him, like I said, to do that, or, or, you know, just do like 60 to this Glaceon in the active spot. I mean, I guess you can discard the energy and do, you know, 180 to Glaceon right off the bat. I feel like it's better probably to soften up with the item lock attack first though. But one bad situation Jeremy is in is the fact that he has Shink's Prize. So he might consider even still knocking out the Ninetales just because of that. If he can actually Ultra Ball and get out Cobalion, you know, I actually think that might be okay if he wants to just continue to attack this active Glaceon. So here he's going to play Volkner, it looks like. And, okay, so this actually isn't too bad. So he can grab himself a Lightning Energy and a double Colorless Energy here. I'm sorry, not a double Colorless Energy, but an Enhanced Hammer to take away my double Colorless Energy. So this is actually, I think, a decent play. I mean, granted, I do have a double Colorless Energy in my hand ready to go, but Jeremy doesn't know that. So I think this is actually kind of a good play from him. You know, even though I do have a way to respond, I still think from his perspective, this could be a good play. And, ooh, and he does have the Marshadow, so actually this could be a turn he might consider going for it. So this is actually pretty good. So I had a pretty big hand there. He's going to get rid of my Enhanced Hammer, he's going to get down the energy he needs to take a knockout on this Ninetales, and he's going to lower my hand size to only 4 cards. So this is definitely a great turn from Jeremy. You know, one thing he does have to be mindful of though is his bench. You know, he still needs to leave room for a Shinx or a Shining Celebi, because next turn after he takes these prizes, counter energy will no longer be in effect, and he's going to have to resort to item locking. And here he does draw into that Cobalion, so he could choose to bench that, but okay, so it looks like that's what he's going to do, but unfortunately now he's not leaving himself a bench spot to actually get you know, another Shinx down or another Shining Celebi. I think both those cards currently are more important than this Cobalion, because right now it's not even hitting for that much damage. It does 30 plus 30 more for every prize your opponent has taken. And here I have the double colorless energy even after he played the Mars Shadow. And here I'm going to use Glaceon GX's GX move, 50 times the amount of damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon, so taking a knockout. So hey, I just did Jeremy a favor, I guess. I you know, freed up a bench spot for him. So here he really needs a Shining Celebi though. I actually think he can afford to not bench a Shinx if he... Actually, I'm not sure if he even got one off the prizes, which is super unfortunate. But yeah, he really needs Shining Celebi, I think, at this point. And, you know, he can let Luxray go down because he does have this Cobalion to potentially get out at some point too. Here it looks like he's going to get down a Choice Band. It looks like he's double guessing himself. But I think it's honestly fine to put down the Choice Band on Cobalion, because ideally he's going to have to go for Shining Celebi this turn. And he just... And, you know, since he's item locking me, I can't play Field Earth to get rid of his Choice Band anyways. And I see he has a Sycamore in hand, but he's... Looks like he's thinking about not playing it. He does have Float Stone. I do see a Bridget. Oh, and here he is going to take back the Lightning Energy. I do remember what happened. He forgot Counter Energy is no longer like working as a double rainbow because we are tied on prizes. So, you know, I said, Jeremy, like, go for it, take it back. We're just playing for fun. You know, it's not a major tournament or anything like that. So, and here, guys, I do remember this. Jeremy item locks me without Shining Celebi in play, and unfortunately, you know, this game actually went on to be really good, but we had to start over because, like I said, the game, this went for, I think 3 turns went by, or 4 turns went by before we realized Shining Celebi hadn't been in play, and he had been item locking me for like 2 or 3 turns, so the game state just wasn't salvageable, guys, and we had to just start over a new game. And I'm really bummed because that game actually wound up being super close, and I mean, I guess it would be when you don't have your own Shining Celebi in play and you get to attack even without it. So I guess, yeah, it does make things a little bit easier. But like I said, I do apologize about that, but I did want to at least put it in there just because it did show off kind of what Luxray can do when it gets set up. So, if nothing else, guys, you got to see a bonus game out of this Best 2 out of 3 series. So it looks like Jeremy mulliganed there. And, you know, last game I had that awkward Tapu Lele start. I'm really hoping that this time, you know, I'm not going to have to start with that. Hopefully I can get myself an Eevee or even a Vulpix or something. And here, unfortunately, I mulligan here. So that will allow... Oh, and Jeremy's going to mulligan yet again. So, kind of a rough start for both of us so far, it appears. But yeah, hopefully Jeremy can just quit prizing things he really needs here, because of the last game, like I said, I'm pretty sure that was the game he prized 2 Shinx against me. The first game, he had a couple bad things prized, like that Cobalion that he needs to clean up in the late game. So, hopefully we just have a good, solid game that doesn't involve terrible prizes. And, okay, I do start with an Eevee, so that's good. I just need to get myself a Water Energy, and I can evolve in a Glaceon. But here, Jeremy mulligans yet again. So I'm sure he's not happy to see that. Luckily for him, though, he is going first, so he does have the option to potentially end this hand, you know, away when I get this extra card. So he does have that option, but more than likely, he's probably going to be looking for a Bridget to play down on the first turn. So let's see if he can finally draw a basic here. And I do see a Cobalion. Okay, he does have a Float Stone though, it looks like, so that is actually good. Okay, so let's see what he's going to have to do. He does have an Ultra Ball in hand, so that does tell me he will be able to go for a Bridget. So here he does have a couple options what he can discard. He's going to play, looks like a Nest Ball and an Ultra Ball. Honestly, I don't really like this play. Honestly, I think what he could have done is just Ultra Balled for Lele, discarding probably the Nest Ball, to be honest, and then you know, just going for Lele to get your guaranteed 3 Shinx into play this turn. I think that would have been the stronger play here, and he has N ready to go for next turn. Granted, this is still okay as well because it does allow him to, you know, end that extra mulligan card I had away. So I guess actually it makes a little bit of sense. I don't know how impactful he thought that extra card was, but you know, if nothing else, you know, I am going to be at a lower hand size than, you know, had he just played the Bridget. So it's not the worst play in the world, but I think I would have preferred the Bridget just to get the guaranteed 3 Shinx into play, just because you can see how fragile these Luxios and Shinx are before they evolve all the way up into Luxrays. And here he actually ends me into some water energy, which is really what I wanted to see. And here he has an Ultra Ball, and actually I would consider playing it right now because, okay, so he's actually going to be in trouble now because I don't think Jeremy has a draw supporter. Had he played the Ultra Ball, he actually could have gotten a Tapu Lele to grab a supporter for next turn. So he saw I started with the Eevee, and you know, it only takes a single water energy to get Glaceon into play. So I think that was a bit of a misplay from Jeremy, but here he's actually getting a little bit lucky on bailing him out with this N. You know, granted, I didn't know he didn't have a draw supporter, but you know, I'm feeling okay about this. I have the Glaceon in play, so it's going to make, you know, things a little bit hard if Jeremy ever does have a dead hand. And basically I'm just 1 double colorless energy away from attacking with this Cobalion. Or attacking into this Cobalion, I should say, I'm sorry. And I do have an Ultra Ball I can play down. So I can get rid of probably an Aqua Patch. I don't think I have any water in the discard. And I might potentially get item locked next turn. So here what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to discard, it looks like another Glaceon. Definitely a tricky call here. I'm going to get rid of the Glaceon. I think, you know, just having the 1 right now is fine. I do play a 3rd if I, you know, choose to go that route at some point in the game. But here I'm going to go for a Lele, and just to grab a supporter just in case I do get item locked on this next turn. And I'm just going to go for a Cynthia. But here it looks like I'm debating. But here, yeah, I think it's fine to go for Lele, but probably a little too early to play the supporter. You know, Jeremy doesn't play any sort of ability locking cards or anything like that, so I think I'm just fine to save the Lele for next turn. And also that way he can't Guzma around this Glaceon potentially. So here he is going to get down a Luxio. And I think I did see an energy in his hand, so he might opt to attach to the Shinx instead, just to kind of spread his resources around. That way he doesn't have too many good, you know, targets in play, or, you know, too many resources on one target. But here he's going to bench that Lele, you know, trying to go for, I guess, a different supporter. But he does have Sycamore at least, but maybe he just has some resources he doesn't want to get rid of. So let's see what he's going to opt to do here. I think I saw Luxray in his hand, so he honestly might even just consider saving this hand for next turn. I think that would potentially be fine as well. And here he's just going to pass. And okay, so actually I have a couple things I can do here. So I'm going to play this Lele. I could go for Guzma, but unfortunately I don't have a way to retreat this Lele if I were to do that. So here I think I'm honestly fine just to go for Bridget. I have Zoroark GX in hand, so I can play that down and draw some additional cards next turn if I choose to. Here you can see I'm favoring the double Zorua, just because that will help me, you know, draw through my deck under this item lock, and just grabbing 1 Alolan Vulpix just because Ninetales can be a decent backup attacker. And here I'm going to do that first attack on Glaceon. It's going to do 90 to this Cobalion, which is great because even if he retreats it, the bench damage from Glaceon will be able to knock out on the following turn. But here it looks like I'm going to do the 30 damage to the Shinx, also just in case he doesn't get another Luxio in play. But here he has Luxray, so that's definitely good. He's going to want a Float Stone and a Max Potion. That's going to be like ideal for him. That's the big things I think he really wants this turn. Okay, I think I see a Choice Band, so I think he's fine to just attach that to the Luxray. And what else does he have to work with? I can't get a good look at what's in his hand. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I saw a Sycamore, but here he's actually going to go for a Guzma. I think this is potentially a pretty decent play here too. So here he can, bring up something else and strain it in the active spot. I can't play Float Stone to retreat this Lele because of the item lock from Luxray. But here I can just retreat at least. And then I can take a knockout on this Cobalion, which is actually pretty good. But here I have kind of a difficult situation. I could take a knockout on the Cobalion, but I could take a knockout on Shinx. So this is kind of a tough decision. Cobalion could definitely make quick work of my deck. But right now, honestly, I feel like it's not a big threat. So I'm just going to take a knockout on the Shinx. Because right now, if it does get a counter energy and swings on my Glaceon, I believe it's hitting for 120. So it's not going to be a one-hit knockout anyways. So that's why I'm like, I'll just take a knockout on the Shinx instead. Prevent another Luxio from coming into play. So the big thing here is, Jeremy really needs to get down a Shinx. He just really needs to. But here he's going to go for a Guzma, and honestly, I don't really like this play. He would have to discard some Guzmas with this Sycamore, but I don't think it's worth it. But here I'm just going to Sycamore, drawing a fresh hand of 7. And here actually I can just take a knockout with Zoroark. It has that nice Riotous Beating attack for a DCE 20 for every Pokemon you have in play. So it's going to be 120 minus 30 from Luxray's ability, which means it's going to be just enough to take a knockout on this Luxray. And then here, he needs a Max Potion and a Counter Energy. Those are going to be the big cards Jeremy really needs here. And here he's just going to Sycamore, getting rid of the Lele and Cynthia. So I'm just curious, did he have Cynthia in his hand the whole time? If that's the case, I definitely would have preferred to see a Cynthia one of those previous turns. Here he's going to play Super Arts, that's good. He will be able to get that Luxray line back into his deck, or get potentially both Shinx. I'm not sure how much of his Luxray line is actually in the deck. But here it looks like he is favoring the 2 Shinx. Okay, so maybe he does have some stuff prized for all I know. But here he does have actually an Enhanced Hammer, which is good. That'll potentially strand this Zoroark in the active spot. And he also has a counter energy, so he can at least attack. But here he's going to go for an Ultra Ball. I would imagine we'll probably see a Shinx here, or maybe a Tapu Lele GX if he doesn't have, a supporter to go for next turn. But here it looks like he's debating about playing Marshadow, so that could be good. I'm not sure how many cards I have in hand, but I'm sure it would put me down at a lower hand size. So here's going to go for the counter energy and play Marshadow. And looks like Jeremy did forget to pick up a card there. Hopefully he remembers to shuffle that one in his deck too. So yeah, if he did not have a support, Marshadow is not too bad here because it will make both of us shuffle in and draw 4 cards. And maybe in the process he can grab himself a Shinx or something like that to still set up a little bit. Oh, and Jeremy definitely drew way too many cards here. I think he was thinking this was N. And okay, I guess I didn't catch this either when we were playing, so that is definitely a big problem because Marshadow makes it so that you only draw 4, but it looks like he drew 6 cards instead, so definitely not allowed to do that, Jeremy. But luckily, like I said, we're just playing for fun in these videos. This is not an official tournament or anything, so we can forgive Jeremy here. And also too, one thing that's worth noting in these testing rounds videos, usually these are our first or second times ever playing with the decks. And like I said, Jeremy was nice enough to agree to play with this deck that I had put together. So this is literally like, him learning how to play this deck while we're recording this. So there might be a few misplays in these video series from time to time. So just something to keep in mind. But here I'm going to take a knockout on both the Cavalion and the Celebi, and honestly I just think that's way too bad at this point. Had I not been able to do that double knockout, then I would say, Jeremy might still have a way to come back. But here he's playing Tapu Lele under the Glaceon lock, and he can't even grab himself a supporter now. And I do see a Cynthia in his hand, so he will be able to do that at least. So he's probably thinking, do I attach before playing Cynthia? I don't think you do, just because this Marshadow gets knocked out by Glaceon GX anyway, so better to save your energy for your Pokemon like your Shanks and all of that type of stuff. He also does play Rescue Stretcher in his list, so if he can draw that, that could also be good to try to get some more Pokemon in play. And I do see, it looks like, oh no, it's a Luxio, it's not a Shinx. So here, looks like Jeremy has to swing for 60, and that is going to be game since he doesn't have any more Pokemon in play. So, kind of unfortunate for the Luxray deck, and he prized 2 Shinx again, it looks like. So Jeremy had like the worst luck with prizes in all of these games that we played. So, but props to him, and like I said, big thanks to him for agreeing to record this video and putting up with this Luxray deck for all of these games. But yeah, guys, definitely stay tuned. We will have the deck profiles for both of these decks being posted on the channel within the next day or so, so definitely check back for those, and they will be posted in the description of this video as well whenever they go live. But as usual, feel free to like and subscribe, and if you can support our channel by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/rarecandytcg, big shout out to all of our patrons over there, or by picking up something from our online store at rarecandytcg.com, it would mean a lot to us. But with that, I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you for the next one.